All jobs come with a certain level of risk and danger, depending on what the job entails. Some jobs are obviously more dangerous than others, as a shop clerk probably doesn't have the same risk of bodily harm as a miner. Even more mundane jobs are risky. Lifeguards risk drowning every day, while pilots might die in a plane crash at any moment. But what about a zookeeper? You would think that this life choice would be relaxing and stress-free, as they can play with small animals whenever they want and marvel at the exotic animals that the general public are not given close access to. But you would be wrong. 62% of zookeepers have disclosed that they have received injuries at work from the animals that they care for, including the cute and cuddly ones. This job requires you to work in close quarters with some of the most dangerous animals in the world that would kill you in a second if they were given the chance. The chimpanzee, tiger, or the fearsome brown bear are all deadly animals that zookeepers routinely work alongside. If the zoo lacks proper stimulation for the animals, these predators will begin to search for their own entertainment, leading to the zookeepers finding their way onto the animals' menu. Uzbekistan is the largest country in Central Asia, and while the country is relatively unknown across the world, it is home to a wide range of animal species. One of the most interesting of these native species is the Himalayan brown bear, which can stand at 7 feet tall with strong, sharp claws. Unfortunately, due to poaching, this animal has fallen into the critically endangered status, leading zoos to begin conservation efforts to save these creatures. These powerful bears need to have an engaging environment in which to thrive, but Uzbekistan is not exactly equipped to give these animals what they need, leading to problems with the bears, problems that can begin to gain a body count. There is a rampant problem with Asian zoos and some questionable ethical practices within these zoos, which can lead to the animals and the keepers being at risk. In January 2023, a zookeeper known only as AG in Uzbekistan was working his usual shift, tending to the brown bears. The young man had been working there for a while and knew the ins and outs of his job so much that it had become like second nature to him. On this particular day, he had been assigned to the Himalayan brown bear enclosure, where he was asked to clean the living quarters and leave food for the solitary bear. He had always been wary of this animal, as it dwarfed him in size, and it had always seemed quite agitated in its enclosure, which he had always believed was too small for the beast, as it repetitively paced back and forth at the glass. As he prepared to enter the enclosure, he made sure to lock the animal into a separate gated area to keep it as far away from him as possible as he entered its home. He couldn't quite remember when it had last been fed, as he hadn't been working the day before, but he hoped it was recently, as he locked eyes with the huge bear staring at him through the gate. He avoided eye contact as much as he could as he began to sweep the floors and discard any waste on the floor. It wasn't a glamorous job, but he definitely enjoyed it. Once he was finished, he shot a glance at the animal behind the gate and was relieved to see it was still there, meaning that he was safe. He shuddered as he thought of what would happen if he somehow ended up face to face with such a massive predator. Unfortunately, this thought would become a horrifying reality very soon. AG was just finishing off his work in the bear enclosure and started to distribute the food to hide it from the animal, hoping to provide some kind of enrichment for the captive bear. He knew he couldn't do much to improve its standard of living, but he would always try his best, regardless, as he hid pieces of meat in tiny corners. He was so engrossed in his work that he didn't realize the life-threatening mistake he had made. The bear had come through the gate, shortening the distance between the zookeeper every second as the man continued his job, oblivious to the danger behind him. As he finished with his task, he slowly turned around as he thought about the best way to release the bear with as little resistance as possible. But to his horror, the bear was already in the enclosure and walking towards him with a determination that made the zookeeper feel sick to his stomach. Panicking, the man began to make a break for it as he sprinted towards the exit, but the bear easily stopped him before he even got close. The bear knocked AG to the ground with one swipe and immediately climbed on top of him. The terrified man began to scream for help, knowing that his colleagues would be close by and they might be able to come and save him before it was too late. The bear only became more excited as AG screamed. He tried in vain to push the bear off of him, but its 300-kilogram weight overpowered him with ease, keeping him pinned to the ground as the animal assessed the best way to begin its meal. With an easy decision made, the bear bit down on the zookeeper's neck again and again, ripping and tearing at his flesh as it did so. Blood spurted across the enclosure, covering the bear's face and making the whole situation resemble that of a horror movie. AG lay pinned to the ground and watched helplessly as his throat was ripped from his body, finally killing him. But the bear was not done with the zookeeper and had no intention of stopping. Even though its prey was now dead, it was ready to eat. The other zookeepers on the shift had seen the whole thing and knew that their colleague was dead from the sheer amount of blood that now stained the bear's face. It was horrifying to see, but they had to get the body back before the bear had a chance to devour it. So they cautiously entered the enclosure with the man-eating bear. They began to throw wooden planks and stones at the animal, scared that any movement might entice the animal to attack them next. And, seeing their blood-soaked colleague lying dead on the floor, they were determined that they would not suffer from the same fate. Instead of retreating as they hoped, the bear grabbed AG's limp body and began to drag it further into the center of the enclosure so that it could guard its meal. Seeing that their plan wasn't working, the zookeepers grabbed long sticks to hit the bear with and push it away from the body. While the bear was becoming more agitated, it retreated from its meal for long enough that the workers were able to run in and grab the body before either of them was attacked. They dragged the mauled man behind the gate and slammed it shut, radioing their supervisors to come and help, but they knew it was too late. It was clear that AG had been killed as the blood poured from his neck and chest and soaked into the sand around them. An investigation was launched into the accident to assess exactly what had happened. The zoo was temporarily closed down while this was happening to make sure that no visitors were present as they tried to contain the situation as much as possible. They knew no one would ever visit them again with such a tarnished name. The name of the zookeeper was even hidden from the media, although this could also be to respect the privacy of the grieving family as they are forced to come to terms with how their son died. Following the investigation, it was found that the park was severely lacking in a lot of the safety requirements that are in place to keep their staff safe. From proper staff training to adequate enclosures, the park was in a lot of trouble. Blame was also partly given to AG, as it was eventually reported that he failed to close the gate properly and didn't check it after to ensure that it was definitely closed, which led to the bear escaping. It is virtually impossible to place 100% of the blame on one person or another, but the death of the unnamed zookeeper rocked the country of Uzbekistan and worked as an example of the power of these wild animals and how they should be left alone. As of today, the zoo is still open to the public. The animals are still living in horrible conditions, and the death of AG was quietly swept under the rug. So long as zoos across the world are allowed to operate without many rules and regulations, another attack is inevitable, leading to someone else's horrifying final affliction.